Coming into the 2025 NFL offseason, the Detroit Lions knew that it was almost a guarantee that they were going to lose both offensive coordinator Ben Johnson and defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, and there was a good chance that they were going to lose one of their bigger name free agents throughout the process. However, there was some hope that they could swing either a big trade or swing a big deal for one of these free agents that are from the other 31 teams, and they could add on to what is already one of the best rosters in the NFL. So, how well have they been able to attain more talent and supplement what they lost in their coaching staff? To begin with, I think they deserve a pretty good grade for how they replace their coaches this year. Offensive coordinator wise, John Morton comes in as the replacement for Ben Johnson, even though that's not really true. John Morton has been with the Lions for a few years before. He was, a lot of people actually think he's one of the main people behind where the offensive philosophy is now with the Detroit Lions. And with the defense, Kelvin Sheppard coming in for Aaron Glenn, this is another, as much as he is new to the position, he's not new to the team. Kelvin Sheppard has been with this team for the last 5 or 6 seasons. He knows this defense. He knows the players. He knows how to talk to the team. And he just knows how to go about keeping business as it's supposed to with the Detroit Lions defense. So as far as that goes, I think this was a pretty good job from Detroit, keeping the coaching staff at an elite level and not using the excuse of, our offensive coordinator left, we're going to have a worse offense, we're going to have to change. They're not going to have to change anything. They brought in a guy who can keep it pretty similar, and they brought in a guy on the defense that can do the exact same thing. Now, moving to the actual personnel of this team, like I did mention, there was a very good chance that Detroit was going to lose some pretty big names on their team, and that did happen. You do lose Carlton Davis to the New England Patriots. You lose starting guard Kevin Zeitler to the Tennessee Titans, and you lose some guys like Ife Melifonwu and Kendall Vildor, who were very good depth pieces in the secondary. It's not great to lose guys that you could rely on previously. But when you look at what they added, I mean, you do supplement the loss of Carlton Davis with the addition of DJ Reed, and you are hoping that, like with Terrion Arnold going into his second year as a pro with the Detroit Lions, you hope that he takes that next step forward, and you hope that just these guys, there was a very lackluster performance from the pass rush of this team, and that's been well documented. That's not something that really is like a surprise or takes anybody off guard, anything like that. It's just the truth. And so what they did do defensively that I at least appreciate that they're trying to keep the core together. They bring back Levi Onwuzurike. They bring in Roy Lopez. And in the secondary, they also add Avonte Maddox and Rock Ya-Sin. But there's no big move yet from Detroit for the defensive line. They did release Zadarius Smith. And so now it's like, we're going to come back, and it's going to be basically Aleem McNeil, Levi Onwuzurike, and Aiden Hutchinson off of a broken leg injury. And I just don't know. I don't know if they've done a good job yet on their personnel. They haven't really replaced Kevin Zeitler yet, and I don't know if the plan is to draft. I don't know if the plan is to wait for maybe a bargain at that position. But they just haven't done a whole lot. And part of that could have been, I think the Lions really would have been in on a Myles Garrett deal. And, that's fine to put most of your eggs in that basket. But as we saw, the Browns ended up just signing Myles Garrett to a contract extension, and they didn't trade him. And now Detroit's kind of just left with not much gained in terms of player addition to this team. The last part of this grade is going to be how this sets them up for the draft. And with the draft this year, the Detroit Lions have not a premium pick in the first round, but they still have a first round pick. They still are picking number 28 overall. And they have some other picks throughout the draft, like their 60, number 102, and 130. Like I said, I don't know really if the plan is to draft an interior offensive lineman. Maybe it's Gray Zabel. Maybe it's Donovan Jackson. Maybe it's someone like that. But I would almost just scrap it and just try to get as much pass rush help as you can in the first and second round. There's just no reason for me to believe that the Detroit Lions without Kevin Zeitler are going to just automatically be this much worse. You still have Penei Sewell. You still have Taylor Decker. You still have Ragnow. You still have a pretty good offensive line where I would hope you can just plug someone in and hope it works. That's never like the best case scenario, but it's one that I think you can kind of work around with the playmakers that they have, with Amon-Ra St. Brown, with Jameson Williams, with Jahmyr Gibbs, with David Montgomery, with Sam Laporta. I mean, you hope you have more of like a Bengals situation where you can supplement the loss of an offensive guard with just the pure talent you have that can win early. So, like I said, I just don't really know what this sets them up to do. If they're setting themselves up to just address the defense, if they're setting themselves up to address the offensive line, I guess I just don't know. And with that, I think this whole free agency period, I'm giving Detroit like a B- for what they've done. Yes, they did address the coaching positions. Yes, they did supplement the loss of Carlton Davis by bringing in DJ Reed, who honestly, I think when you look at it, you lost probably the number one cornerback in free agency. You lost Carlton Davis to the New England Patriots, but you probably brought in the number two cornerback in all of free agency in DJ Reed. So honestly, I think that's a wash. You're paying DJ Reed $6 million less than Carlton Davis. But otherwise in free agency, there's been very little done. And I would venture to say that they've lost more talent, even with only 5 players going out the door, compared to how many players they re-signed and brought in. I honestly feel like more talent left than more talent came in. And I just don't know what this is setting them up to do for the draft, really. And that all, adding that all together, I just come to a B-, maybe a B. But I don't love what they did at all. And you throw in the fact that they didn't get a deal done for Myles Garrett, which might have been impossible, but they still couldn't get something done. And yeah, like I said, all of that put together, I come to a B- for this free agency.